Jeff Wolfe is the founder and chairman of Grow Solar. If you have any questions, he's joining us for another couple of minutes at 244-1777 is our local number, toll-free 877-291-8255. Is there anything in this letter that you would, in retrospect and with the value of 2020 hindsight, take out?
You know, fundamentally, no. If there was anything, it might be to take the phrase out and put my money where my mouth is, not because I won't, not because I don't feel that way, but because it gave an easy hook for some people to grab onto. You know, as I pointed out in a subsequent correspondence, you know, my money, $3,000 of total campaign contributions to federal and state everywhere across country last year is not a lot of money, even in Vermont. And my money I've given to Senator Campbell, I haven't gone through all my records, but it was maximum $50 per campaign cycle. So this is not anybody buying anything here. It's support in the broader sense. And so I might take that out just so we didn't defocus the discussion.
Mm-hmm. We take a call from Brookfield. Jonathan, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, my question about renewables. Have renewables reached an economic point where they threaten centralized power brokering, where the homeowners and business owners could essentially own their own power cells, and you know, companies like Green Mountain Power and all the other sort of power providers end up threatened by this? And I can take my answer off the air.
All right.
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes, that renewable energy has come down in very significant price. There are places in the country, there are places in Vermont where we can buy power below the cost of retail power. Solar energy, in particular in Vermont, a study came out from the Department of Public Service late last year that said that net metering in Vermont really isn't subsidized either way. The utilities don't subsidize it, the ratepayers don't subsidize it, the homeowners don't subsidize it. It's kind of a net equal. And I'm working with a company now that can actually provide power to your house through group net metering at a cost below that of regular net metering, saving homeowners money by putting in solar. So that is very much the case. This company is actually partnering with Green Mountain Power. We see them as a strong partner, and they're glad to partner with us. So and I can't announce more than that because we haven't formally announced this yet, but so rather than seeing it as a threat, Green Mountain Power is very much embracing solar energy and wind energy. Separately, outside Vermont, there's a plant in New Mexico right now that is producing solar power for less than the price of coal power. And so at the heart of this, yes, renewable energy is chipping into traditional power sources. Solar energy will be the second largest installed new power base in 2013 in the country. So of all the power installed this year in 2013, solar power will be the number 2 player in that. That's natural gas, oil, nuclear, wind, coal, hydro, everything. Solar will be number 2. And that's why there's significant nationwide funded campaigns by the Koch brothers and by ALEC and others attacking renewables broadly, because we're taking away some of their pie.
So what makes you think that Senator John Campbell is, quote, falling for their lies, or the Koch brothers, deceit, fake science, and name-calling?
The voice of the anti-wind folks in Vermont has sharply increased in the last 18 months. They have become sharply more organized. That kind of thing doesn't generally happen all by itself out of the blue. We have uncovered some documents that the Vermont groups are, if not allied and funded, certainly following the same scripts as the national groups. So the misinformation and the publicity and the general drumbeat from the opposition, anti-wind, anti-solar folks, is following the national game book. So when I say Senator Campbell's falling for this, he's falling for that propaganda.
Is that really true? Because, I mean, Jeff, it seems most of the opponents that I hear from are people that live very close to projects that are directly affected by it, and in a lot of cases really haven't been all that political.
That's absolutely true, and those are the people who are being energized by the opposition. The thing is, the opposition is being better financed, better funded, better organized in order to get those nearby voices out to you. But if you count on your hands the number of voices you actually hear from the number of individual voices, it's a pretty small number. And then you look at how loud that number is, how loud that small number is, and it's out of scale.
Let's take a call from up here. Jed, you're on the air with Jeff Wolfe of Grow Solar.
Excuse me. Hi. I have a real problem with Jeff's comments on whether people are for or against solar power, renewable energy, when it comes to the issue of wind and the issue of this bill. I live in Montpelier. I doubt if there's going to be any wind towers floating around here. Be that as it may, I very much feel strongly for solar and wind power and any other source other than anything the Koch brothers or others can put together. And I really object to the sense of saying, well, this is basically based on some game plan of the Kochs and others, because I think most people, like myself, who's a native Vermonter, feel that I think it's important that the communities be involved. And I think what happened in Lowell and stuff like that, I think there are communities that should have been a party to that weren't.
All right, let me have a comment. Thank you.
I wish I could agree with the caller. I'm actually moderating a panel at the American Solar Energy Society conference in April down in Baltimore, where the ties of the Koch brothers and ALEC are being discussed. The ALEC and the Koch brothers don't obviously operate in the different states that they work in under those names. They have front groups, and not my area of expertise, but I have members in the panel from the Union of Crimson Zionist and PR Watch and such who do make that their more or less full-time job to track and trace these folks. And you know, folks in Lowell were involved in the conversation. Folks were involved. That they weren't it's just kind of recasting history.
Is Senator Campbell the only person that politically you're going to try to defeat?
I don't know what the whole strategy is going to be. Certainly he is the Senate Pro Tem. He's an important figure. And that's part of wearing that mantle, that you get the focus. We'll see how people vote. We'll see what people do. We'll see where the bill ends up. We'll see where Senator Campbell ends up.
Let's go to Plainfield. Bob, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Mark, and your guest. I take exception to your guest's assertion that, at least in Vermont, that there's a great movement that's sponsored elsewhere to address wind. I think wind does have its place. For example, I was recently down in Corpus, Texas, and they have a large number of wind farms down there that make sense. You've got a breeze blowing off the Gulf, and the infrastructure is very easy to lay in there for those towers. On the other hand, up in Vermont, quite frankly, this is the Green Mountain State with beautiful mountains, and I don't think mountaintop removal to put wind towers up really makes sense here. So everything in its place. And anyway, I'll get off the line and listen to your comments.
Okay, thanks.
A fascinating comparison of wind turbines and mountaintop removal. Anybody who's been down to West Virginia, and seen the real mountaintop removal, there's not only are there no trees left on top of those mountains when they mine for coal, there's no mountains left on top of those mountains. They're taking hundreds of feet off the top of the mountain and putting it into river beds. They're destroying their environment in the absolute sense of the word, as if they blew it up, as they are blowing it up. Putting a wind turbine and a road up on a mountain is a whole different thing. And one of the things that really bothers me about this whole debate about, we should get our power from someplace else is, I'm not a native Vermonter. Wish I was. Don't have that birthright. But what I feel about Vermont is that Vermonters like to take care of our problems in Vermont. We don't like to pawn our problems off on others. And when we say, we'll get our power from someplace else, that's pawning our problems off on somebody else. And if it's from Hydro-Quebec, there were native peoples who lived in places that are flooded now. There are native peoples who live in places that are planned to be flooded in the future, who flooded in areas the size of France up there. Those folks would probably look on us sticking a wind turbine in the middle of a forest in Vermont a lot differently than than we might right now. And I think it's important that we understand our energy is coming from someplace. Where is it coming from? What's the impact where it's coming from? Let's take care of those impacts. Let's not foist our problems off on other people's. Let's make sure we continue the Vermont tradition of social justice. You know, Vermonters are traditionally conservative in many, many ways, but always socially just. And that is a philosophy that I very much embrace.
Jeff, I found it fascinating how different people read this letter differently. What have you gotten a reaction all over the place? Have some people been really mad at you? Some people supporting you? I mean, I would imagine you're going to hear a bit of a self-selected feedback, but what have you heard?
So, interestingly, every comment I've heard directly, and ignoring some of the flaming that goes on blogs, every person I've reached out to has been positive. Some have said, geez, Jeff, you shouldn't have been maybe so strong, but thank you. Or, yes, this is the right thing to do now. We need this. Thank you for being this voice. I've actually been rather startled at some of the people who I consider to be pretty influential in Vermont. And I didn't know how they were going to react. And frankly, that wasn't my concern when I wrote the letter. And the reaction's been startlingly supportive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me on.
Jeff Wolfe is the founder and chairman of Grow Solar. We were talking about the letter that he wrote to Senator John Campbell about his opposition to a bill that's being voted on today down at the legislature dealing with renewable energy projects. We're going to take a short break here. Coming up next, we're going to we'll discover a little bit more than what we probably already know about the Christian Science religion. We'll do that right after these important announcements.